Book Bites with Maggie. My name is Maggie Carr. I'm the Youth Services Assistant here at Napanee Public Library. And on today's episode of Book Bites, we are going to be having a whole bunch of different staff members share recent reads and recommendations. It's a little bit different, so we'll see how this goes. If any of these books pique your interest, leave a comment or send us a direct message, and we'll be happy to put those on hold for you. The first one that I wanted to share with you is Christina Lauren's new book. This is something wilder. It's a little bit different than the books that they are known for. They do write romances, but this one takes place out in Wyoming. And in this story, Leo and Lily are given a second chance. They were a teenage couple who made big plans and everything fell apart, and they're getting a second chance a decade later. This one was super fun, and if you're a fan of the Fen Treasure fandom, this would definitely give you some of those feels. So a romance. We do have this available as an e-audiobook as well. And then this is one of Reese Witherspoon's book club picks for 2022. True Biz is written as a fiction book, but it is unlike any other deaf or hard of hearing book that I have ever read before, and there's been lots of those before. This book here by Sarah Novick it's a combination between a story written around three different main characters. You have a headmistress and some of her students in a deaf school where people live. So it's a residential deaf school. And in this story, you have both perspective of that headmistress and some of the students, but intermixed in it is going to be snippets in history about deaf culture. There's lots of pictures so that you can get a clue of what some of the signs look like. Let me see if I can find a graph. And then you can also see in the writing the way that there is a difference between traditional English and spoken English and then ASL. So you get kind of a feel when you're reading it back and forth, and there's blurbs spread throughout. So you're learning as you go instead of letting the author just kind of let you start Googling things to figure out what the context is. All of it is included in the pages of the book. So super helpful. This is True Biz. We have it also available as an audiobook. So let's hear from other staff members.
Hey, I'm Brittany, and I've got a couple books here that I have read recently that I wanted to share with you. The first one is by Justin Rhodes. It's called The Rooted Life, and this is like a gardening, homesteading book that he wrote just based on his life. He wanted to help people grow better food and have better health. He suffered from some health problems himself, and he just wanted to share that through a lot of times with good food, a lot of diseases and health problems can be reversed. So he was just trying to help people with that, and he helps you. It kind of outlines what it would take to grow and raise your own food and what that looks like, doing it together as a family, and how a lot of times whole foods cost a lot more, and so when you raise your own food, you're saving a lot of money too. So he does mention that. He also wants to point out making mistakes, learning new things, and just getting out there is the main focus. If that's something you've been thinking about, growing, raising your own food, you can do it. You can pretty much do it anywhere. You can even grow just an herb in a pot in a windowsill. So yes, there's that one. And then my next most recent read that I really enjoyed the most was American Cake by Byrn. You may know her as the cake mix doctor if you've ever seen any of her other cookbooks. Basically, she takes the cake mix and doctors it up to make it not taste like a cake mix. But this book, she did a lot of history research on cakes and kind of how they started. Like, she goes back to 1650 and what cakes looked like way back then and up to the present. So she goes through 1650 to 1799, baking cakes in early America. 1800 to 1869, new cakes in their directions. 1870 to 1899 was scientific. You had baking powder coming into play, and then Fanny Farmer, which is a very old cookbook that is well known. 1900 to 1916, American layer cakes came into play. 1917 to 1945, baking in good and bad times. 1946 to 1962, Tupperware bake-offs happened. And then 1963 to 1979, cake times are changing. They're vegetarian type cakes, French cakes, and women were working more, so their quick cakes were introduced. 1980 to 1999, cakes born in the USA. They say goodbye to post-war cakes, and some are flourless. 2000 to the present, cakes of the new millennium, recipes from websites, social media, different flours are introduced now. Like you see ground nuts, nut flours, and then cakes have become smaller. This was just really fun to see how they've progressed and the ingredients that was used. I like history and I like baking, so it was a really fun read. There's also a chart in here of the presidents of the United States and all the cakes that they like. So that was fun.
Hi everyone, my name is Nikki and I work in the basement, and today I'm going to be talking about the book Women of Resistance. I don't have the book in front of me, but it does come both print and in ebook. And this is an anthology written by women of different genders, gender identities rather, races, ethnicities, sexual identities, and I'm just going to give a little bit of a trigger warning right now because it does deal with some topics that you might want to skip over, and that's fine. So in this book, the thing that I really loved is that it gives kind of a really intimate look at how women deal with these different topics that we have to encounter throughout our lives. So things like, you know, the everyday things of womanhood, but also it deals with things like loving your body and loving yourself, using your voice, defying sexism and racism and classism. And it also gives really intimate knowledge into the grief and the healing and experience of women who have been abused, who experience adversity. It talks about how women have dealt with things like abortion, assault, these different things, and it talks kind of through, or it gives background to these artists and how they've experienced those things, how they're learning to integrate those things into their lives, and then I just think it's really incredible and inspiring how they've used those things to create art. And I really appreciated seeing other people heal through art, because I feel like I can take inspiration, even if I don't identify with every single one of those experiences. We all have adversity in different areas of our lives, especially as a woman of color, and hearing from other voices both within my own ethnicity and outside of it really inspires me to keep going, keep moving forward and find new ways to process my own life. So yep, that's Women of Resistance.
Hi everyone, I'm Martha, and I'm going to talk about a couple of books that I've recently read that I really love. The first one, this was actually a reread for me because I read it back when it came out in 2019, and then I just read it again this summer. It's Beyond the Point by Claire Gibson, and the author it's about West Point, and the author actually grew up at West Point, so it's very factual in some ways, but it follows three girls, Danny, Hannah, and Avery, and their journey at West Point, and then after. It does involve and talk about 9/11 and the events that happened afterwards, but in this reread, it was very much like connecting with old friends, and I loved the book even more the second time around than the first time. And then the second one is By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, and this is the second book in the Meant to Be series. This is they are taking Disney princesses and they are writing them as adults and in the modern world. So this one follows Izzy and Beau, and Izzy is a ghostwriter for Beau, or she actually goes to help him, nudge him along to write his memoir. And I will say, he does have a library, but I want his snack closet more than the library and the original Beauty and the Beast. So this is Beauty and the Beast reimagined. The first one in the series is Cinderella, and then the third one is coming out next year, and it will be Ariel. This is available in book and then also e-audio, and Beyond the Point is available as the book, e-audio, and ebook.
Hi, I'm Jeanette, and this is my recent read that made a huge impact on me. It is the 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin. It's hilarious, laugh out loud funny, and will make you cry. Really pulls on the heartstrings. It follows the story of Lenny, who is 17, and Margot, who is 83. And between them, they have lived 100 years. And so this follows how Margot tells these beautiful stories of her past, and Lenny gets to experience a life well lived through her stories, because they are both terminally ill patients in a hospital. So yes, it will make you cry, but it is so funny. Lenny's wit and her charm is just brilliant. The writing style is beautiful. It flows from past to present very smoothly. And this is actually Marianne Cronin's first novel. It was published in 2021. And yeah, it's made a huge impact on me, so definitely recommend it. And the formats that is available, it's available here, physical copy, and it's also an ebook and an e-audiobook. All right.
I just turned 65 this summer, and I've been a little nostalgic about growing older. So my last 3 reads have been memoirs of people who grew up about the same time I did and had some interesting stories to tell. I read Forever Young, a memoir by Hayley Mills, and she tells some great stories about Disney movies that she was in, and it helped me relive growing up in the 1960s and 70s. So I would recommend anyone who wants to relive that era to read this book.
Okay.
I also read Fly Girl by Ann Hood, and she became a flight attendant for TWA in 1978. And she tells not only her own experiences about the airlines and her life as a traveler, but she chronicles changes in the airline industry as well. And I found that very interesting since I love to travel, and I've noticed a few changes in the years that I've been a traveler. So I enjoyed this book as well. And the one I finished just today is Face It by Debbie Harry. And so I had to rock out to some Blondine tunes on my car as I drove into work. Her story is also very interesting. Beginning her career in the 70s with music and being a female lead was pretty new, and that did not stop her. She did what she wanted to do, and she did it well. So I would also recommend this book.
Hi, my name is Sarah. I am the assistant director here at Napanee Public Library, and I recently read and loved the book The Line Tender by Kate Allen. It's a work of young adult fiction. You can find it here on our young adult fiction shelves at the library. And basically, it's a book about a young woman who lives with her father, whose mother has been dead several years. Her mother was a marine biologist, and she herself is kind of a naturalist artist. So she draws animals, especially she loves ocean animals. It's just a really tender story about a relationship between a father and daughter navigating a big loss, but also Lucy, the main character, navigating first love in this context, and a big discovery of a shark on the beaches in Cape Cod where she lives. And it's just this fascinating confluence of really cool science and a really lovely family story and a really lovely story of first love. Just a fantastic combination of story elements that really resonated with me. There's also some really cool illustrations in the book, so you can see Lucy's artwork, for example, starfish and sharks throughout the book, like such. So it's neat. It's a great read. It's a lovely story, and I highly recommend it. Oh, and it's available as e-audio, which is how I listen to it. I kind of toggle back and forth between the book and the audio, but I spent most of my time with the audio, and both are really wonderful. So just 2 different types of reading experiences.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I am a member of the Napanee Public Library staff, and I'm going to be talking to you today about one of my favorite books that I recently reread. So it is a fantasy series called Graceling by Kristin Cashore. She was originally from South Bend, but I believe she lives out east now. And I had reread this earlier this year because it's one of my favorite series. She has a new book coming out soon in the series I'll tell you about. But I recently, just this last week, reread the graphic novel. And it's by one of my favorite illustrators, Gareth Hines. And what I really love about it is the illustrations I'll tell you about. But let me tell you about the book first. It is about Katza, who is a young lady who in her world, certain people are blessed with what are called graces, and they are certain powers, and they can be anything from being able to read people's minds, or being able to have a certain skill at arts, or maybe music, or doing other things. Maybe it is having a green thumb or something like that. But hers, supposedly, is being able to be skilled in combat and killing people. And so she hates this because her uncle, the king, takes advantage of it. And so most of her life she is sent on these missions as an assassin. And then she meets another character who helps her discover that she's so much more than that. And what I really liked about this, of course, if you love fantasy, you would love maps. And in this particular book, there's, of course, a map. I marked it. There's a map of the kingdom. And so one of her quests, or one of her missions, is to figure out who is causing all of the strife and issues in the storyline. Lots of plots and twists and turns, and there's a huge plot twist in the book right here. I marked it because I'd forgotten about that particular one. As this series goes on, there's a little bit of romance. It's not a whole lot because Katza is not into that, and that's, I think, one of the things that really drew me into this particular novel. The other thing that I really like too is I actually came across this particular illustrator years ago as a teacher. We use a lot of his graphic novels in our curriculum. He has done a lot of contemporary ones like Odyssey, Iliad, To Kill a Mockingbird, but Julius Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, those kinds of things. And this is his first contemporary novel that he's adapted. And the illustrations are just amazing. They're easy on the eye, easy to read. He uses his literature, his dialogue, and they're just actually, they help you understand what's going on in the storyline. I really enjoyed this particular one. And the novel has a few things along the way in there as well. There are 4 books in the series. Graceling, the second one is Fire, which is a companion novel. It has a whole new cast of characters. And then the third one is Bitter Blue, which is set 8 years later than this novel. The 4th one is called Winter Keep, which is a similar setting of this novel. It has some of the same characters as this one. And then there's actually a 5th novel that I found out that's coming out this fall, which I didn't know that the author was writing. Again, this is Graceling. You can get it here in this form, hardcover, or you can get it as an ebook or an audiobook. And this one you can on our Libby app. And you could also get this as, this is actually our library copy, or you can get it on our Libby app as an ebook. Okay, enjoy.